Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The planet is closer to a catastrophic disaster than at any time since 1953. That's according to the scientists behind the doomsday clock, a symbolic timekeeper that tracks the likelihood of nuclear war and other existential threats. On Thursday, the scientists moved the clock's minute hand 30 seconds closer to midnight. The hour now sits at 2.5 minutes before doomsday. This is Rachel Bronson of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists.
But perhaps most troubling has been two concerns that are adding to an already challenging global landscape. The first has been the cavalier and reckless language used across the globe, especially in the United States during the presidential election and after, around nuclear weapons and nuclear threats. And the second is a growing disregard of scientific expertise that is needed when it comes to responding to pressing global challenges, including climate change. There is a troubling propensity to discount or outright reject expert advice related to international security, including the conclusions of intelligence experts.
Scientists are planning for a major march on Washington called the March for Science on D.C. The idea came after millions of people rallied in D.C. and in cities across the world last Saturday for the Women's March on Washington to protest the inauguration of Donald Trump. Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto has canceled a meeting with President Trump that was scheduled for next week as tensions between the two countries rise. The move came after Trump announced plans Wednesday to expand the border wall between the U.S. and Mexico, a wall Trump has repeatedly said he would force Mexico to pay for. On Thursday, Mexico's top diplomat was at the White House to help pave the way for the visit when his team received word of a Trump tweet suggesting if Mexico were not willing to build the wall, it should cancel the trip. Trump claims the two leaders mutually canceled the upcoming meeting, a statement Peña Nieto has refuted. This is former Mexican President Vicente Fox.
Está sonso, es una locura más. Imagínate que él va a ir al Congreso.
It is stupid. It is crazy. Imagine him going to Congress and saying to the American Congress to authorize a budget, to lend money to build a useless wall, a wall that is a complete waste of money and which is useless. And he tells Congress not to worry. I will get Mexico to replace the money. Mexico will pay for it. Well, Trump, here you go.
On Thursday, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer said the U.S. would impose a 20% tax on all goods imported from Mexico and use the proceeds to pay for the expanded border wall that the U.S. would build. But after widespread outrage at the plan, Spicer walked back his statements only hours later, saying the import tax was just one idea. We'll go to Mexico City for more on the U.S.-Mexico standoff later in the broadcast. Donald Trump is making his first official visit to the Pentagon as president today. The New York Times reports the White House has drafted a presidential directive instructing Defense Secretary James Mad Dog Mattis to ramp up U.S. military action against ISIS. The military action could include U.S. Army helicopters and ground military in Syria. In his first televised interview as president, Trump also openly embraced torture, including waterboarding, saying torture absolutely works. Trump's comments sparked immediate criticism, including from international human rights experts and lawyers. This is Ian Seiderman with the International Commission of Jurists.
This is almost unprecedented. We just came through many years of cleaning up the mess in this area that was made by a previous U.S. administration under President Bush. But even the Bush administration, while it engaged in torture, and that's been well documented, was very careful not to publicly condone torture. In fact, on a number of occasions, the President Bush himself, as well as a number of officials, condemned torture. They understood it was criminal activity. They saw it as something embarrassing to be covered up.
On Thursday, top-ranking Republicans, including House Speaker Paul Ryan, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and Senate Armed Services Committee Chair John McCain, signaled congressional Republicans would not change the laws on the use of torture. Ryan said, quote, "Torture is illegal. We agree with it not being legal," unquote. British Prime Minister Theresa May also indicated Britain may stop sharing intelligence with the CIA following Trump's endorsement of torture, saying, quote, "We condemn torture and my view on that won't change," she said. May and Trump are scheduled to meet for about an hour today in the Oval Office, marking the first visit by a foreign leader to the White House since Donald Trump took office. Prime Minister May, House Speaker Paul Ryan, and other top Republicans were all speaking out against torture from the Republicans' annual three-day retreat in Philadelphia, which Trump also attended on Thursday. More than 5,000 people took to the streets of Philadelphia Thursday to protest Trump's visit to the city and to denounce Republican policies, including the efforts to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Trump's first executive order, signed only hours after his inauguration, made the prompt repeal of Obamacare the administration's top priority. The administration has pulled ads for the 2017 enrollment season of Obamacare off the air, including the ads that were already paid for. The deadline to sign up for new plans is January 31st. The entire State Department senior-level management has been ousted by the Trump administration. The news of the resignations broke Thursday, sparking widespread concern. Former State Department Chief of Staff David Wade told the Washington Post, quote, "It's the single biggest simultaneous departure of institutional memory that anyone can remember, and that's incredibly difficult to replicate," he said. Trump is continuing to call for a major investigation into voter fraud as he stands by his lies about the 2016 election, despite the fact that his claims have been widely debunked by experts. Trump is falsely claiming he lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton because 3 to 5 million unauthorized voters participated in the election. This is Trump speaking in his first televised interview as president with ABC's David Muir.
When you say, in your opinion, millions of illegal votes, that is something that is extremely fundamental to our functioning democracy, a fair and free election.
Sure.
You say you're going to launch an investigation into this.
Done.
What you have presented so far has been debunked. It's been called false.
Take a look at the Pew reports.
I called the author of the Pew report last night, and he told me that they found no evidence of voter fraud.
Really? Then why did he write the report?
While experts have found no evidence to support Trump's lies about widespread voter fraud by unauthorized immigrants, they have found at least 5 examples of voter fraud from Trump's family members or inner circle. The Washington Post reports Trump's son-in-law and close White House advisor Jared Kushner, Trump's daughter Tiffany Trump, Trump's chief strategist Stephen Bannon, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, and Treasury Secretary nominee Stephen Mnuchin were all registered to vote in at least 2 different states, something that Trump has claimed is evidence of voter fraud. We'll have more on Trump's voter fraud claims later in the broadcast. The Trump administration's war on the media escalated Thursday when Trump's chief strategist, Steve Bannon, called the media the opposition party. In a New York Times article published Thursday, Bannon said the media should be embarrassed and humiliated and keep its mouth shut, unquote. Bannon's the former head of the right-wing Breitbart Media, which frequently publishes racist, sexist, anti-immigrant, and xenophobic news. We'll have more on Trump's war on the media after headlines. The Trump administration has announced plans to publish a weekly list of crimes committed by unauthorized immigrants living in so-called sanctuary cities where local officials and law enforcement are refusing to comply with federal immigration authorities' efforts to speed up deportations. The plans for the weekly list, to be published by the Homeland Security Department, were included in Trump's executive orders that were signed on Wednesday. Author Andrea Pitzer, who's currently writing a book on Nazi concentration camps, points out Trump's proposed lists recalls a Nazi Germany-era policy by which the Nazi Institute for Research on the Jewish Question kept files on crimes committed by Jews. The list is part of Trump's attack on sanctuary cities, which also includes threats to cut their federal funding. Mayors of sanctuary cities nationwide have vowed to resist Trump's attacks, but Miami-Dade County Mayor Carlos Jimenez has already announced the county will drop its sanctuary city status and comply with Trump's executive order. In Texas, Governor Greg Abbott says he'll cut state grants to Austin, a sanctuary city, and has vowed Austin Sheriff Sally Hernandez will lose her job. unless she forces local police to begin cooperating with federal immigration agents in order to speed deportations. President Trump is expected to sign more executive orders cracking down on immigration in the coming days, including one that would temporarily ban refugees from resettling in the U.S. and block all visas from being issued to anyone from Syria, Iraq, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. The Department of Homeland Security has already halted trips to interview refugees abroad. The interviews are an essential part of refugee admission and resettlement. The anticipated crackdown is sparking widespread protest in the U.S. and abroad. On Thursday, Oscar-nominated Iranian actress Taraneh Aladousti said she is boycotting the Academy Awards ceremony over Trump's proposed visa ban, calling it racist. The Washington Post reports Trump personally pressured the head of the National Park Service to find and provide photographs of the Inauguration Day crowds on the National Mall in efforts to counter news reports about the inauguration's low turnout. Trump and White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer have repeatedly lied about the crowd size, saying more people showed up to Trump's inauguration than any other inauguration in U.S. history. In fact, hundreds of thousands showed up to Trump's inauguration, compared to 1.8 million who attended Obama's inauguration in 2009. Trump reportedly also told the head of the Park Service he was angry the service's Twitter had retweeted a photograph showing a side-by-side comparison of photos from Trump's inauguration and Obama's inauguration in 2009. In Africa, the Gambian president, Adama Barrow, arrived back in Gambia Thursday following the departure of the longtime leader, Yahya Jammeh, who had initially refused to step down. Barrow's supporters lined the streets to celebrate his return from Senegal, where he'd fled and held his inauguration last week in the Gambian embassy in Senegal's capital. This is one of Barrow's supporters.
I'm here to welcome my president. Yeah, because we are very happy to be here today, welcoming the president of the Third Republic of the Gambia, which is Adama Barrow. So today is our happiest day. We are here to enjoy, and he will be here around 4 to happy to see us as we are preparing for him and welcome him in this country back.
Hundreds of people in Hawaii say they'll protest against Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg this weekend over his filing of lawsuits to force hundreds of residents, including Native families, off their land in order to make his Hawaiian beachfront property as private as possible. Native Hawaiian professor Kapua Sprode of the University of Hawaii said, quote, "This is the face of neocolonialism," unquote. Zuckerberg now says he's reconsidering the lawsuits. Vice President Mike Pence is slated to speak today in an anti-abortion rally on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., called the March for Life. His speech will mark the first time in the march's 44-year history that a sitting vice president will address the crowd, which had gathered each year since the 1974 Roe v. Wade decision legalizing abortion. Pence's well-known 1973 decision. Pence is well-known for his anti-abortion views. His speech comes only days after Trump's administration reinstated the global gag order, which bans U.S. funding for any international health care group that performs abortion, advocates for the legalization of abortion, or even mentions the word abortion. In Ohio, a federal judge has ruled Ohio's new lethal injection process is unconstitutional. The ruling concerns Ohio's use of sedative midazolam, which has been linked to botched executions in Alabama and other states. Thursday's rulings delay 3 scheduled executions in Ohio. Also in Ohio, Brescia Meadows, a 15-year-old girl who allegedly killed her abusive father, has been transferred to an adolescent treatment facility after spending 175 days in a juvenile jail. Jonathan Meadows, Brescia's father, reportedly made life for his family a living hell, routinely attacking his wife, Brescia's mother, breaking her ribs, puncturing her blood vessels, blackening her eyes, slashing her body. Following the announcement of her transfer, her aunt recalls Brescia saying, quote, "I'll be able to walk around outside. I'll be able to lay in the grass," unquote. To see our full coverage of Brescia Meadows' case, go to democracynow.org. And George Orwell's 1984 has become a bestseller in the days after President Trump took office. Penguin, the publisher, reports a 9,500% sales increase since last Friday, the day of Trump's inauguration. The classic dystopian work introduced the world to the terms Big Brother, thought police, newspeak, and doublethink, words that many are finding have new meaning under the Trump administration. To hear a reading of 1984, go to our website at democracynow.org. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.